Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. I am your host, Larry Frank, and it is so good to have you with us today. What a great show we have for you tonight. What a great show. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, we got a great show. Thank you. Thank you all for... Thank you. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that lovely welcome here. Want to thank you all very much for being here with us today. What a great show we have for you today. Want to welcome on the line here. I see that Jeff, all the way from Connecticut, is on the phone with us. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us this evening. In about 15 minutes, we're going to have the pleasure of having the program director from WDAE Radio, that's sports radio in Tampa, Florida. John Mamola will be joining us live to talk not just about Tampa sports, but all different topics going on in the world of sports, and also about his career with WDAE. So just a great conversation for any fans anywhere throughout the United States, and especially a treat for those of you in the state of Florida, specifically the Tampa Bay area. Later on tonight, we'll go over the rest of the week. We have some unbelievable guests that will be joining us throughout the next week. As always, when I start my show, I want to go ahead and ask you all to please do me a favor. We're on many different platforms, so if you can please do me a big favor, I'll take a second here, and can you please share this on your timeline. Share this with groups if you belong with other groups. We got several different groups listening to us this evening. Please share it on your timeline. I would really appreciate it. The more people, the better off the show is. And as always, we always encourage you to interact with the show. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, topics you want us to discuss, or just a question about the topic we're discussing, we're always happy to do what we can to answer those questions for you. And also, let me know you're here. You know, the more participation, the better. And we got a poll question here that we're going to go ahead and put up right now for you as we start this show. And there we go. It should be being published right now. It is. The question is, and we'll be talking about this later on in the broadcast after John Mamola joins us. We'll talk about this. Josh Gordon earlier today has asked the NFL for reinstatement. This would be, he's been suspended already 5 times in his NFL career. The question tonight is, should Josh Gordon be reinstated? Either a yes or no, basic question, but please do me a favor, answer the question. It takes you 2 seconds to answer the questions. The more people that participate, the better the show is. So please go ahead and do that. Once again, our poll question. Should Josh Gordon be reinstated? Either yes or no. And we'll talk about it later on in our last segment tonight. But, you know, we start off, and I'm not going to dwell on this a lot because we do have a great positive show. But we start off with about the first 5 minutes talking about Major League Baseball and how they still can't get it together. You know, as of yesterday, everybody thought a deal was imminent. You know, Robbie Manfred met with Tony Clark. They met. It looked like everything was going well. And the next thing you know, they're just as far apart as they ever were. And, you know, I said this last night, and I'm telling you guys, you need to start listening to me because I do know what I'm talking about. And one of the things we talked about last night when that deal was done, you know, talked about and it was brought over to the players, I said, watch out. Watch out. There's going to be some jockeying going around about the amount of games. And for those of you who didn't listen last night, go back and listen, and you'll hear me say they're going to try to get 10 more games out of the owners. And what happened today? Well, Tony Clark came back and wanted 10 more games, which probably won't happen. But that's negotiations. And, you know, I get sick and tired every day talking about Major League Baseball and how ignorant both sides are. And, you know, this is what really gets me about that yesterday. And I've talked many, many times on different platforms, on different shows about the commissioner or lack of a commissioner in Major League Baseball, about no leadership qualities at all. And he goes today and says, well, I was under the impression that when I left Tony Clark yesterday, that an agreement was just a matter of hours away. Well, what kind of stupid moron leaves a meeting thinking that an agreement is made when one isn't made? I mean, how stupid is this commissioner we currently have in Major League Baseball? Now, I'm not going to sit here and stick up for both sides. We've done that on previous show, and I don't want to take too much time up on this topic because it just nauseates me anyway. But after the weekend and after Major League Baseball owners gave them a deadline and the players got upset, their motto was simple. Tell me where and tell me when. Max Scherzer, Blake Snell, Trevor Bauer, I believe a couple of other players, I think Bryce Harper. That's what they said. Just tell me where and when. Then last night, you think an agreement is here, and the where and when was just a matter of BS as well. So, you know, it's called negotiating. And we talked about that last night on our show. Negotiating is a skill. It is a skill. And these guys are professional negotiators. That's what they do. But unfortunately, nothing has been done. Nothing has been said. You don't know from one day to the next who to listen to, who to believe. But at the end of the day, we are in the same spot and the same position that we were 3 months ago. So once we hear something, we'll let you know. But I don't want to give baseball the time of day unless something breaks during the show and we hear about it. We're about 7 minutes away from being joined by John Mamola, the great program director of WDAE Radio out of Tampa Bay. Want to remind you all, please go ahead and let me know if you're here. Ask a question, ask a concern. Just say hello. I want to thank you all for joining us today. This is great, and we got a great show for you. Besides baseball, one of the things we talked about in our last segment yesterday, and I guess here on Frankly Sports, we couldn't have been more accurate than the comments we made. We talked about the state of Texas. And I said it was pretty weird that the state of Texas is opening up all their stadium capacity to 25 or 50% capacity when it seems to me like the state of Texas is one of the hottest states when it comes to the coronavirus and these athletes, getting it and contracting it, whatever the right word may be. And it happened again today. We told you yesterday about 6 players at the University of Houston that contracted it. They're in quarantine. Then there was a couple days later, some of the Houston Texans and some of the Dallas Cowboys contracted COVID-19 in the state of Texas as well. And one of them being, which was no surprise, Zeke Elliott. Okay? So I told you yesterday, it's a very, very hot state. Well, it was reported earlier today, if you have not heard the news yet, that 13 athletes at the University of Texas, that's University of Texas, 13 athletes have contracted the coronavirus. They are now under quarantine. There is a problem in the state of Texas right now. When you talk about these states, and it seems like that's a big issue right now, the state of Texas. And nothing against Texas. I love Texas. I lived there for a year. But it's an issue. It is a definite issue right now going on in the state of Texas. And we're sorry to hear that 13 more, individuals contracted it and happen to be athletes as well. Doesn't make it any worse or better if they're an athlete. It's still an individual and they contracted the disease. So once again, there's a lot of questions to be asked around what's going on with this coronavirus. Dr. Fauci came out again today, and he doesn't think that it's a great idea for the NFL to go ahead and have a season because it'll be in the height of the second wave, and if they do have the season, they're going to have to be in a bubble and this and that and that. And then the NFL comes back and says, we understand all the issues that we're going to have to go through, and we are taking the proper precautions to go ahead and make sure our players are safe. It's a very, very, very complicated situation because nobody knows what's going to happen. We're playing a guessing game. The exact opposite extreme can happen. We can go ahead and start the season, and then not a lot of people get sick. We just don't know. And that's the worst part of this is we don't know. We won't know till it happens. You can say don't start the season. Nothing happens. Or you can start the season and everything that you thought might happen. It is a guessing game. It's an unfortunate time. We mentioned this over and over and over again. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Now, after we get our interview, we're minutes away from John Mamola. We have a great second half of our show after John as well. Obviously, John will be a great part of the show as well. But we're going to talk about Josh Gordon. If you look at our poll question this evening, and please answer it, the question is, should Josh Gordon be reinstated? It's a yes or no question. Very simple. It takes 2 seconds to answer the questions. Please go ahead and do that. I'm just typing a quick message to John. He's letting me know that he's about to come on, which is great. Okay, so John will be on momentarily with us. But go ahead, answer that question. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit about the Buccaneers as well after it. So go ahead and do that as well. We'll talk about, I'm sorry, I was reading a message. I apologize. We'll talk about Josh Gordon. Then I'm going to talk about something Byron Leftwich needs to accomplish and Tom Brady needed to accomplish in order to make this offense going. And it's not going to be a surprise to anyone. So as soon as we're done with John, we'll go over that. Please leave any questions, concerns, thoughts that you want to leave, and we'll make sure. If you want me to ask John a question, he's a couple minutes away, put it in our guest comments here under the comment section, and we'll ask John Mamola those questions. Want to also let you know, we have people from many different platforms on tonight. I don't care what group you're in, what platform you're on, ask a question. It's okay. It's not only people from Frankly Speaking Sports that you can ask. So please go ahead and let's see. I think this is John Mamola on the phone. So we'll go ahead and get John on the phone now. So as soon as we're done there, we'll go ahead. But ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is my great honor. It is my great thrill, and it's most of all a pleasure to introduce to you the program director of WDAE Sports Radio, 620 AM, 95.3 FM out of Tampa Bay. Please welcome John Mamola. John, how you doing today?
I love the energy. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. Doing great. Hey, before we get started, on behalf of myself, and I know I speak for our listeners too, a big shout out, a big congratulations. We understand you signed a new contract with WDAE Radio.
Yeah, very blessed, very honored to have another couple of years in the building, or at least currently in the home office while we through this COVID pandemic. But yeah, no, I mean, I just celebrated my 9th year down here in Tampa, and looking forward to many more in the future, and blessed that iHeartMedia and iHeartRadio trusted me to continue to steer the ship. So very, very blessed and very happy for it.
And John, speaking of that, it's amazing. And when I say it's amazing is at a time where, and it's got to be a little bit even, I call extra special, maybe with the whipped cream on top, so to speak, because you're at a time now, like you just mentioned, we're going through an epidemic, and unfortunately, and you've seen it even at iHeartRadio, a lot of cuts were being done. People let go. I know even, the great athletic, that real well, had 40 or 50 people they released.
47 people at the Athletic got unfortunately let go about 2 weeks ago now, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, this had to be really special. At a time when people are letting go, here's iHeartRadio signing you to a new contract.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been in negotiations now for a couple of months, even pre-COVID. So this was conversations that were occurring before everything. But I mean, the pandemic has definitely hit not only our business in radio and in sports, but I mean each and every. I mean, everybody in this country has been affected one way or another by what's going on, and unfortunately, layoffs and furloughs and cuts are part of that, and that's just the nature of the business of not only sports and media, but just the economy in general. If advertising slows down, you got to find a way to pay employees, and if you can't pay employees, then it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, there's no hierarchy to things, But again, during a pandemic, the success that we've had over the last 9 years, both current staff and past staff. We've had a really, really good run on WDAE, and again, very blessed and very honored that iHeart and iHeartMedia will continue to invest in me as the PD of WDAE.
Now, John, you came down, you said 9 years ago from Chicago. Chicago, as everybody knows, a great, great tradition with their sports team. How difficult was the transition for you going from Chicago coming to Tampa Bay?
Well, it's different. Chicago, you got 5 pro teams and 2 baseball teams, hockey, NBA, and football, NFL, and college football is kind of an afterthought up there. It's kind of like a fun thing to kind of catch on the weekends, maybe at a sports bar, but that's really about it. There's no passion behind it because there's nothing really to care about from Northwestern or the Illini, at least the time while I was living up there. So it's different. But it's unfair to really compare a market that has hundreds of years of history, in sports in general, with a market that got its first, professional team in the NFL in the mid '70s. So, and they've had baseball since the '90s and hockey since the '90s. So, it's a little unfair to kind of compare the two. But I would say, about back home in Chicago. It's live and die every pitch, every face-off, every basket, every snap of the football. Whereas down here it's a little more lax. But you have a lot of transplants from around the country. I mean, judging from your accent, sir, I'm guessing you're not from Tampa either. But I'm sure you can relate that it's just a very laid-back attitude. But the passion is still there. It's just unfortunately they haven't had the lineage and history of winning, down here, and just overall, just time. So, and that's why it's so key to. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the Bucks dominate the market down here is because they've been here the longest. I mean, the Lightning and the Rays need that same kind of time as well to really ingrain a true fan base in the market, and hopefully that's the case. But I always tell everybody, because I get this question all the time, it's just a little unfair to compare just because of the drastic amount of history in one market versus another.
Now, let me ask you this. I know a lot of our listeners, and, they understand, Ronnie and T-Crez in the morning. They get Pat and Aaron in the afternoon. Then I know they get Ron and Ian and Jay Recker in the late afternoon. Why don't you explain to our listeners what the role of a program director like yourself is?
Okay. Well, it's basically my toes are dipped in every single magic water that makes a radio station. So, and that goes from crafting content to booking guests to assisting producers to lining up a lineup to assisting with the sound of the station, with the imaging and the commercial loads, and working hand in hand with our sales department on generating revenue from everything that we do in the building. Working with our promotions teams back when we could do promotions, because obviously with COVID there's a lot more restrictions.
Right.
But also, the biggest piece that I got is working with our franchise partners, is having those constant conversations with all three of the pro teams in the area, Bucks, Rays, and Lightning, as well as USF, who also is housed in our building as well. On top of that, just making sure we're good partners for both Premier Radio Networks, which carries the Dan Patrick Show, and the Herb and Cowherd, which you can hear on DAE, as well as ESPN Radio, which we have a ton of amazing play-by-play opportunities through them, and some great evening content as well with Freddie Coleman Monday through Friday, and our weekend programming as well. So really, I mean, when you look at everything, because typically normal person turns on the radio, they listen to their favorite talk show host, they talk about the topic of the day. There's so many other things going into the behind the scenes of every single asset of what a radio station does. And my role is to have my toes and my input in every single one of those. So, typical day, Monday through Friday, wake up by 7:30, get to work by 8, and, work till sometimes 1, 2 in the morning till the job's done to make sure our listeners are going to have the best content possible for the very next day.
Now, John, how much say, and I ask this, I know obviously their opinion, they can say what they want when they're on the air, but how much say do the actual hosts, like the Rons, the Ians, the Al, the Aarons, how much say do they have on what they talk about on the show?
On a day-to-day basis, when we have our lineup structured the way we do because they're the absolute best at what they do for this market. From time to time, I'll kind of dip in and just kind of see what's on their minds, and I'll make some suggestions. But when it comes to the day-to-day, what we're talking about, I always go by three things. The goal of every show is I got people got to learn something from you. They got to learn to love you, and they got to laugh with you. So if you can do all three of those things in one show, depending no matter the topic, that's the overall goal of every single show that we do. Now, when it dives into social issues and the business of sports, where it involves partners of ours, I have a little bit more kind of a voice in that room. But really, I trust my guys and they trust me. If there's something that they're uber passionate about and they want to bring up on their show, they know that they have my backing for anything they want to do. And that way, too, if they have any questions or if they have any concerns or if they just feel that I should be involved in something, at least in a discussion about the topic, then they get me involved. But I try not to be the judge, jury, and executioner that a lot of people think probably I am. But at the same time, I trust my guys to talk about what they care about. And, 10 times out of 10, we're hitting it out of the ballpark, talking about what the Tampa Bay audience cares about and doing the absolute best job we can with it.
We are talking to John Mamola, the program director of WDAE Sports Radio out of Tampa Bay. John, you mentioned that, and how difficult has it been, coming up with content the past couple of months?
Actually, we're one of the markets that has been quite lucky with a guy named Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski coming to town. So,
right.
Now I will say this. I mean, for the content side of things, look, Brady and Gronk, that's going to carry us all the way into football season. The draft helped. Obviously, what's been going on with all the sports trying to come back in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and how many games they play and how often they play, that kind of stuff. There's still news to talk about. There's still things for a sports radio listener to grab onto that is sports related. Even though there's no game by game, because look, baseball's never been more talked about in the month of June than right now. Typically nationally, your baseball markets are going game to game, but at the same time, we're kind of talking about Bucks minicamp right now. We will be talking about Stanley Cup Finals potentially with the Tampa Bay Lightning. baseball's never been more popular than talk radio because they can't get anything together and they can't figure out this season. So the content aspect of it, honestly, has been not a problem for us. Now, I mean, this pandemic has hit our area hard, I will say, because we lost WrestleMania, we lost March Madness, we lost the Valspar tournament, our one local PGA tournament here in Tampa Bay. Thank God we still got the Super Bowl on schedule, but I mean, we lost a lot of the Stanley Cup playoffs, those will not happen in Tampa. There's a lot of different events that we had on our sports calendar as far as, maximizing coverage for, but unfortunately because of the pandemic and a lot of dollars have been lost because of this. But hopefully we can, build out from this a little bit and, get some fans hopefully back in stadiums and watching games and games even going on in the first place. And, come January, February, when we're, celebrating the Super Bowl here in Tampa, hopefully we'll be as back to normal as possible.
Now, obviously, the past couple of weeks have just been, the injustice that has been going on, and not just for the past couple of weeks, but it's been going on for a while. It's just been just so outrageous, and you got to see it firsthand. Obviously, in Tampa, a lot of protests and some buildings were burned down, and I thought it was really interesting and really a great move. I know last week, and I don't know if this was your decision to do this, the guy's decision, but you took a day and you basically opened up, I guess you could say opened up the platform and talked about racism, the effect, and you took calls, which, sometimes taking calls from callers can be real dangerous, especially with a very sensitive topic. Explain what was done there and whose decision was it to do that?
There was really no discussion about it, but every night I send a note to our staff with basically the lineup of the next day. And every Sunday I try to put a kind of a message or a goal kind of platform for the week. And of course, what happened, out at University Park Mall happened on a Saturday night. And I actually had to go out there on Sunday to pick up some food from my favorite place in Portillo's. So I saw the burned buildings, and I saw the police presence, and I saw, just impact on the community. I used to live literally like 5-10 minutes away from that place for a number of years. So it just felt like, we needed, and I think the way I phrased it is, I think this community just needs to hug each other and not be afraid of having tough conversations, because this is what happened to George Floyd, absolutely a crime. Absolutely should never happen to any human being of any ilk. But at the same time, it just struck so much at home, seeing what happened in our own backyard, that I think it would be more of a disservice to ignore it. And all of our guys live in and around that area. And I told them, like, look, I'm not telling you what you need to talk about, but I would highly encourage you to connect with our audience on this level. Because, look, there may not be sports going on, and we could talk about the inner workings of baseball. And I think at the time hockey was making their announcement about, their return to play schedule. But there was nothing else on the minds of people in Tampa outside of what they saw that Saturday night and everything that was falling through. So we would be doing a disservice to our listeners if we didn't go down that road. And credit to all my guys. I didn't tell them they had to. I suggested that they should, but only if they're comfortable with having that. And the good thing is, and this is a credit to all my guys, they were willing to have the conversation and open it up to those conversations. At the same time, welcoming, and look, we're all not going to agree on this stuff, and I'm sure you know that as well, but welcoming debate and welcoming disagreement. Because too often when you hear a dissenting voice, you just want to shut them up. We can't do that anymore. So I'd much rather have that conversation, open up the lines if people want to talk about it. But at the same time, I just felt that at that moment, we would be doing a huge, huge, huge disservice to our community if the people of our community weren't allowed at least an outlet to get their feelings out there and just empathize with that, because that's how we connect. That's what makes radio great. That's why you're doing this. You want to connect with people. I want to connect with people. We should all be connecting more with each other instead of being so isolated in our own homes. But But at the same time, when something like so shocking like that happens, and then it happens in your own backyard, you got to do it. You just had to do it. I'm glad we did it. And you know what? It's the conversation still continues. A week later, we had Jay Retcher talking to 3 Tampa Bay student athletes for a half hour, commercial free, having that conversation about their life from their perspective, dealing with racial injustice and police brutality. Because they live in Tampa, and it's kids. It's kids from teenagers through, some of them are in college now. But continuing that conversation, and that really should be the goal. Now, are we always going to be the outlet for it? Probably not. When we get back into sports, we're probably going to get back into the conversations we always get into. But at that time, it just felt right. And I'm glad that my guys took the mantle and they ran with it all day. They continued it throughout the entire week. And I thought it really made some really good connecting, solid Tampa Bay radio. It really did.
Yeah, it really did. And, I streamed it all the way over here. I've been in Arkansas for the last couple of months now, and hopefully soon I'll be back in Tampa. But, right now, and I streamed it, and I thought it was some incredible radio. Now, going a little bit back to sports, one of you guys who I know very well, Pat Donovan, great guy on the afternoon show. He broke a report a couple of days ago, and Pat. Pat doesn't usually break things. They gotta be like concrete before Pat will break a story. And he came out with a report about football players possibly sitting out the season because of social injustice.
No. Pat came out with that story. Me and him had a conversation about the sourcing of the story. But again, it's kind of one of those things where if you're comfortable going with it, it's your reputation at hand, because you're going off basically what someone else is telling you. But you have to understand that trust is everything, especially in reporting, with anything. I mean, it could be, national news coverage, politics, sports, what have you. So now, look, are those kind of conversations going on? I'm sure they are, but as far as serious conversations, I just don't see how that's possible. I think the comments of the NFL in recent days talking about how they're going to be welcome almost to the fact that players are going to have the right to speak out. All the statements that Roger Goodell has put out about how he's supporting, the players, backing and just raising the issue of racial injustice and police brutality. I can't see that happening. But from a player standpoint, I can empathize with that. And look, people talk to different people, and they say some things sometimes that they just don't mean. Or maybe they're just saying something because of the moment itself. I don't see that really happening. I know Malcolm Jenkins signed a deal with CNN to be a political contributor during the season, but I don't expect him to not play because he, is a political contributor, fighting for a cause that he truly believes in. I just don't see that happening. But it will be interesting to kind of see how the whole taking a knee during the anthem goes this time around. I'm glad that Roger Goodell kind of covered himself a little bit with a Friday night, video, saying what he said. The way Drew Brees handled what he said, the aftermath of that, I thought was a very positive step. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see more of that not only, before the season starts, but probably during the season and after the season. So, it's an interesting time. And it's one of those things where every sport is going to react a little differently. But the NFL, because of the focus on the league and the focus on what Colin Kaepernick did with the anthem, I think the microscope just got that much bigger. And I think there's going to be debate. There's going to be debate again about what the NFL will allow and what they won't allow, and are these players going to be punished? Are there going to be missed practices? Are teams going to really truly get behind the Black Lives Matter movement and invest, which I know some teams have, in fighting the same causes that their players believe in? I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting year from a multitude of platforms. Let alone, will fans even be in the stands? Will football even happen? So it'll be a very, very interesting NFL calendar. I mean, I'm looking forward to covering it and following it day to day.
And you were talking about Tampa Bay earlier, and about how you had a lot more information, to cover during this epidemic because some of the off-season acquisitions the Buccaneers had. I mean, you talk Brady, Gronk, Wirfs, Tyler Johnson, Antoine Winfield Jr. Do they have the missing pieces to take them far?
I look. I remember when people were picking the Cleveland Browns to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, look. Hype is hype, and I get it. And some people have to do it. I think any level-headed Tampa Bay fan understands this team still was 7-9, and I know Jameis did what he did last year with the 30-30. But just because you get Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski does not mean you're winning the Super Bowl. I mean, you're improving a very key position on the field. But at the same time, a couple of spots worry me. The offensive line still worries me. I think Tristan Wirfs was an outstanding pick where they had him. But at the same time, you got a 42-year-old quarterback. He ain't no spring chicken like he used to be. And he played. And here's the other thing too. We're going to find out this year: is it Brady or is it Belichick? And that's always been the debate as long as I've ever watched Tom Brady. Is he a system quarterback? I mean, look at what happened. I forget the name of the gentleman that played for Brady one season, and then he went to Kansas City and he stunk it up. Like he goes 11-5 with the Pats, and then he sent this massive contract with the Chiefs, and then he stinks up. I forget the name of the guy.
But I think Matt Castle. Yeah. Yeah,
that was the argument. Is it the system or is it the talent? So we're going to find that out pretty quickly. Now, look, Tom's got a lot of weapons. He's got a hell of a lot more weapons down here at 42 than he probably ever had in New England. So the only thing that worries me is can that offensive line keep him on his feet? And that's the only thing that worries me. It worried me with Jameis. It's going to worry me with Tom. Running back, I love Ronald Jones. Met him at the Super Bowl. Nice kid. I love his aggressive style of running. But, I mean, we need more production there. So he's got to step up his game again. I think the defense, I think they're in for a really difficult season. The reason why, now you got Tavon guy. That defense was the scheme was, well known, but you had different talent running it, and people didn't know how they would, adapt to it. Now they've adapted to it, and now we've gone through a pandemic. So not only do you have tape on that defense now, but now you've got a pandemic where they can't even practice that defense in live action, because they've missed all the mini camps and all the OTAs and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a very interesting season. Are they winning the Super Bowl? I'd love to see it. I just don't see it. Make the playoffs, that's a huge win. Make the playoffs, get in the dance, see what you can do, make some noise, because that's what this community needs. That's what that fan base needs. They need a winner. And they haven't had one for so damn long, and if they can just get in the dance, I think that's a huge success for the season.
Now, you got the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Let me ask you from having your own radio show, your own radio network there, when the Super Bowl comes to town, does it make you that much more busier because of all the press that is in town now?
I was down in Miami. That was my fourth Super Bowl. I've been to Houston, Minneapolis, Atlanta, and Miami, and now this one in Tampa. Here's the way I would explain it. Your week is only as busy as long as you prep the 3 months before. Really, the Super Bowl for a radio station starts in October. And really, now that it's in our home backyard, it's already started, the prep for it. So it's a lot of work. It's a fun week. There's a lot of events. You get to meet all sorts of great, interesting people. It's an outstanding networking opportunity for people as well. But at the same time, it's only as good as much as you prepare for it. And if you just walk in, you assume all these people are going to come walking up to you. That's not how it works anymore. It used to be like that. But now, my Super Bowl prep has already started. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into a week of broadcast from Radio Row. So, but once you get there, it's a job, especially if you're traveling, because I'm on Radio Row starting at 6 in the morning, and I don't get off that row until probably 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. And then you try to hit up a couple parties. You got the opening night thing that they do now on Mondays. But it's a lot of work. It's so rewarding though, and that's why I always tell everyone it's a grind. But man, if you prepare for it and you execute, when it gets to Friday at 7 o'clock and you're ready to go, man, is it fun. I mean, you just kind of look back on it and say, wow. Like I booked, I think 76 guests this past one in Miami, and we're talking, former football players, we're talking celebrities, we're talking the most random people you'll ever meet in your life. Hall of Famers just sitting right across the table from you. But you prepare for it, and if you can prepare for it correctly and line up a lot of stuff ahead of time, just make sure it executes. If you do, it makes everything so much easier.
We're talking to John Mamola, the program director of WDAE Radio out of Tampa Bay. Few more questions before we let you run, John. I know you've been with DAE for 9 years. You've been through negotiation processes with different teams and different organizations. How big was it last year for WDAE to land University of South Florida?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, we label ourselves Tampa Bay Sports Radio, but we didn't have Tampa Bay College. So, it was very big. We're thrilled to have USF in the building, signing a multi-year deal to carry their football programming. But I mean, look, and even when they worked with us with iHeartMedia, we always kept great lines of communication open. We were very, very well ingrained with the communications staff. Charlie Strong, was on pretty often. We try to get as many assistant coaches on as well. Really, I mean, Jeff Scott's going to be great for this program. I think it's just an injection of energy coming from a winning program in Clemson. I think he's going to do a fantastic job down here. Maybe compete for an American Conference championship, and that will give a nice shot of life into the university. Michael Kelly's a Saint. I remember the first time I met Michael Kelly is when the College Football Playoff National Championship game came down here. So he was working on the playoff committee. We had him on a couple of times. And then, who knew? He signs to be the new AD just 1 or 2 years later. So, no, it's huge. We love USF. Go Bulls. I know we had the Florida Gators for a very, very, very long time. They were tremendous partners for us. But at the time, it just seemed right that if we're going to make ourselves a true Tampa Bay sports radio station, just like we market it, we got to have them in our building. So that's what we did, and more than thrilled to have them, and hopefully we can kick off another season here in a month or two.
Now, last question before I let you run, John. It's not only, you talk about the excitement surrounding, obviously, the Tampa Bay Bucks this year with Brady and Gronk and all the acquisitions that they have. But for the first time in a long while, let's say if all the seasons resume like we are hoping they do, but this is the first time where the Tampa Bay area could have a possible trifecta when it comes to the playoffs with the Lightning, which is a very good hockey team, and our Tampa Bay Rays, there was so much after last year's success expected. I mean, how much more pleasurable once they get back to normal and you're able to cover everyday sports is this going to be for your station?
It's going to be tremendous. Hockey playoffs in August and September. Yes. Where do I sign? Baseball, cross our fingers. Hopefully, playing however many games they need to play. Yes, of course. Look, I know that Tampa gets knocked a lot for attendance, and the building and the overall situation between them and Montreal. But that's a really damn good baseball team, man. I mean, if you're a baseball fan and you pay attention to this league, watch out for the Tampa Bay Rays. There's a number of guys that I respect nationally that look at this roster, and with a shortened season, when pitching and defense is going to be way ahead of hitting, especially at the first couple of games. I mean, how can you not have as good of a situation as the Rays have right now? So, and then the Bucks again. For me, just make the playoffs. Could we have a trifecta where the Lightning, which are already in the playoffs once they get going, if baseball goes again, crossing our fingers, I think the Rays have a really good shot of getting in, especially under a potential expanded playoff. I think the Bucks have a really good shot at making the postseason. Would I promise it? Would I guarantee it? Would I lay money on it in Vegas? Probably not, because I'm just not that kind of guy. But I think the expectations right now for this market, you could potentially have a trifecta where all three teams this year are playing postseason in each of their respective sports. And who knows? I mean, if Jeff Scott lights a fire under some people over there, maybe we're talking about a bowl game for USF that's outside of, something that people normally don't watch. Maybe a top 25 program. That would be kind of fun. So yeah, we're geared up, man. I mean, look, the pandemic has brought upon how we think, how we rethink what we do. We're now dabbling into all sorts of digital realms. We have a Twitch stream now at twitch.tv/953WDAE. We're providing video game content there. We're video streaming our shows now. The NFL Draft, we did a live draft show for 5 hours on Facebook Live. We have a lot of really huge plans for what's going to come this fall, and I can't wait. I just hope, honestly, is that football starts on time, hockey gets going, and we have some just give me some baseball season, because I mean that's my favorite sport. This is a baseball community, and it'll be a really damn shame if they can't agree to terms during a pandemic when there's a lot of people struggling, and they just need something to kind of get away from the struggles of everyday life.
Yeah, I agree 100%. John, I want to thank you so very, very much for joining us tonight on Frankly Speaking Sports. I really, really, truly enjoyed having you as a guest.
Well, I appreciate the invite as always, and let's do it again sometime, all right?
All right, sounds good. Stay safe, my friend.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
That was John Mamola, the program director of WDAE Radio out of Tampa Bay. For those of you down there, it's 95.3 FM and 620 AM. So we got a lot of information out of John, a lot of great topics we talked about. Just a great guy, and nobody deserves as much success as this individual. Just a great pickup by the Tampa Bay area 11 years ago. And we were so honored to have him on our show this evening. Now, before we spoke to John, we were talking about Josh Gordon. And if you look at our poll question today, we do have a poll question. It's on your poll. It's on your page. Just look to it. And I ask you, should Josh Gordon be reinstated? For those of you who don't know about Josh Gordon, this guy has been suspended 5 times for either using, let's call it substance abuse, considered illegal drugs, PEDs, and so on and so on and so on. And it's just incredible that this guy has been allowed back in the league already this many times. What is the point of having a consequence if there's no consequence? Basically, you're saying you can do it again and again and again. No, I'm not done. And again and again. And you still can play in the NFL. I think the NFL is making a foolish mistake, and I have nothing personal against Josh Gordon. He is a tremendous talent. There is no doubt about the tremendous talent that Josh Gordon is. But how many times are you going to let a guy screw up? I believe in forgiveness, but there's got to be a point where there's a consequence for, your behavior. And the first time, okay, we'll give you a second shot. Everyone deserves a second shot. The second time, maybe. But after that, forget it. And if the NFL is going ahead and allowing this gentleman back into the game of football, they're setting a very bad example and a very bad standard for the rest of the players. So now they can think, I can do this all I want, get on drugs, do substance abuse, and Josh Gordon was allowed back 5 times. Why can't I come back a second or third or fourth time? It's not a complicated situation. There are other things we talk about on a nightly basis that is complicated. This is not one of those complicated situations. So, my opinion, and it's not in the vote, and I'm going to look at the vote right now and see if we have anything. And we do. Right now, 67% of you say that, let's make it 75% or whatever it is, whatever, it's over 67% say no. So that's how I'm feeling. And we got about 10 more minutes in that poll before we wrap it up tonight. A couple things I do want to remind you of. Tomorrow night, boy, and I was real happy with our guest tonight. And it keeps getting, I don't think you can get much better than John Mamola. But I'll tell you what, we're doing everything we can to try. Because John was incredible. But tomorrow night, it's Chris Long. Chris Long, the Minnesota anchor, covers the Twins, covers the Vikings, the Timberwolves, and the Hockey Wild up there. So a lot of good stuff. Also, everything, all the injustice that's been going around in Minnesota. So that should be just a great interview again tomorrow night. Then on Monday night, guys, I'm telling you, this is an incredible story. I don't care who you are, whether you like sports or you do not like sports. Monday night, 9 p.m., Randy Lurch, former pitcher of Philadelphia Phillies, I remember him very well with the Phillies, is going to join us live. And, he had a career that was shortened by some off-the-field issues, some addiction. He has a book out. He's going to get an opportunity not just to talk about his career in baseball, but about his addiction afterwards, how it ended his career, and about his book as well. We're going to give him that opportunity to promote that book and let all you fans, which it's just an incredible story. Then Tuesday night, I'm still waiting. Got several opportunities to have guests. We'll pick the best one based on the current sports topics going on. And then Wednesday night, every Wednesday night going forward, we are going to be doing, it's Frankly Speaking Sports, but it's Buccaneer Wednesday. Basically, we up to the season, and we may change the day. We're not sure yet. But as of now, it is Wednesdays, Buccaneer Wednesday. Very special guest, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer and New England Patriot, Ricky Reynolds, will be joining us live on Wednesday night, on Buccaneer Wednesday, to talk a little bit about the Buccaneers, his football career, and also, what's expected out of the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're getting a lot of comments right now. I swear to you, my text line is lighting up on my phone about the interview we just did with John Mamola. Even the comment sections, thank you, Craig from Tampa. I said outstanding interview. People are just, I can't thank John Mamola enough for that interview. Very, very great interview. And that's why he's in the position he's in. He's so successful at what he does. I was looking at my phone to see if anything had come down while we were on the phone about Major League Baseball, and I don't see anything. So if something did come down, hopefully somebody, but I don't see anything on Twitter or anything. So nothing new. If you joined us late, we did talk about baseball. Nothing has happened. It's just unfortunately very disappointing and frustrating, but, nothing has happened. I do want to remind you all, we are on several different platforms. If you have a Twitter account, when you're done listening to the show, do me a favor. Do me a big favor. It takes 2 seconds. You go over to Twitter and you hit Larry Frank. That's my name, by the way. Larry Frank. What a coincidence. You go ahead, you hit follow, and follow me on Twitter. We retweet a lot of stuff. I know we got a buddy Dave out of Land O'Lakes, so Lakeland, Florida. He's on my Twitter page. He gets tweets all the time from me with the most updated information in the sports world. You can have that pleasure as well. Also, all of our shows are now on YouTube. Listen to this, guys. Not only can you go to YouTube, you can subscribe for free. I don't charge people to listen to me. So you go to YouTube, subscribe, it's free. You can listen to all our previous episodes, some of the interviews we done at the beginning. We are on like a 63rd episode, I believe now, of Frankly Speaking Sports. Also, if you go to a sports bar, do me a favor. Most people have a smart TV. Tell them to go to YouTube, type in Frankly Speaking Sports. You got to type in the whole word. It's Frankly Speaking Sports. You'll go, if you arrow over to a circle with the Tampa Bay Buccaneer football field on it, Raymond James Stadium, you hit it, all my episodes come up, and you can sit down, have a brewski, eat some wings, and watch me on TV. My goodness gracious, what better thing I cannot think of than to watch Frankly Speaking Sports with a brewski in your hand and a chicken bone in the other hand. Nothing's better. It's that simple. Then, we have a lot of people watching on different groups tonight. We have an amazing amount of guests, an amazing amount of listeners. Just because you're on another group doesn't mean you can't join Frankly Speaking Sports. We talk about all different sports. Yes, we cater to the Tampa teams because a good following, a lot of our listeners are from the Tampa Bay area, but just because you're on a Buccaneer site somewhere else or a Rays site somewhere else, hey, there's enough spots for all of you. Go ahead, go to Frankly Speaking Sports on Facebook, ask to join. My staff will go ahead and approve you, and you will be a member. And not just do we put our podcast on this page, we put all the latest updated news as well. So you're informed all day long. We have quite a few fans, and I want to thank, all of them from the bottom of my heart. I told you when we came on, we just had an amazing response over the past couple of days. I'm getting emails all the time. They love our new platform. Remember, when we first started the show, we only did it by audio. Now we're starting to do a video. I am going to get a nice backdrop here in the next couple of days. Hopefully, we can put behind, whether it's a big buck flag, a Rays flag, or something, so that you can see that behind me. And we'll work on that. We've been working hard to find it, but when you're out of town for a little bit and not in the Tampa area, Arkansas doesn't cover the Rays and the Bucks and the Lightning. So we'll do that, especially hopefully soon. Want to remind you all, once again, we will be back at the same time, same place tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, once again, we have the privilege of having Chris Long. He is a Minneapolis sports anchor in the Twin Cities over there, and he's going to be joining us live to talk about, all different types of topics, about some of the Minnesota teams, what's expected for them, and so on, and so on, and so on. Once again, I want to wish everybody the best of luck. Be safe. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. Good night.